Good afternoon and welcome to the last System Care Learning Series session for 2023. I'm glad that you are joining us today. I'm going to go over just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Just in my screen. Our session today is in Zoom webinar. That means that all attendees are muted and your videos are off. We are recording the session and it will be available soon. Please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen for questions. We will have time for questions and answers throughout the presentation and at the end. We know that there may be technical difficulties, so we appreciate your patience as we encounter any today. To be eligible for continuing education credit or certificates of attendance, you must be in the content portion of the webinar for at least 90% of the session. This is a mandate by the boards. Please do not leave the webinar until the conclusion of the Q&A, as this counts towards part of the session. You do not have to enter your contact information in the chat, as attendees and your time is tracked by Zoom. You must register for the session and join with the link emailed to you. If you receive the link from a friend or coworker, we will not be able to track your attendance and you will not be eligible for a certificate. By April 3rd, you'll receive an email from me that will provide a link to access the session evaluation and then your certificate. This is a screenshot to show the landing page for the evaluations and certificates. You must complete the session evaluation to proceed to the certificate. And lastly, you're responsible for printing your own certificate. We do not mail or email certificates. This website houses several years of the System of Care Academy. So if you lose your certificate, you can access this website to print another. And now I want to welcome Dyzz Cooper and Amanda Metcalf. I'm going to turn it over to them for their full presentations, for full introductions.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Lee. Let me go ahead and get the slide right quick. And can you guys see it?
You want to put it into presentation view?
There we go. Awesome. Thank you, y'all. I appreciate it. I am Dyzz Cooper, and I'm here with my partner, Amanda Metcalf. We're here to talk to you guys about a presentation to recreate holding help for families and youth from a youth and parent perspective. And we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves in a minute. But before we do any presentation, we like to go ahead and start out with just a little icebreaker, just to break the ice and just like set the vibe. So our icebreaker for today is, what was your favorite song from your generation when you were growing up? So I expect to see a lot of songs in the chat, what you guys been listening to when you were a little bit younger. So like, I might not recognize some of these songs, but please put it in there so I can add it to my playlist. I will say this: when I was younger, I was a big I like Nelly, Country Grandma, for all my Kentucky folk out there. I don't know if you guys ever listen to that, and Ride With Me. That was like my top two songs like I could play all the time growing up. So like what you guys got? Let's see what the chat talking about. Hey, cool. I see some Prince, Earth, Wind and Fire. I heard of them, but like I never really like listened to them. And Salt and Pepper, Push It. Okay, I like that. The Eagles. I can't say I'm familiar with them.
I'll send you a playlist, Dyzz.
Really, please do.
Yeah.
Please do. But what about you, Amanda? Like when you was like a wee youngin, what you listen to?
I always cheat when we do this icebreaker because I like stuff my mom listened to, Pink Floyd in particular. But from my generation, a song that was really big was Hanson, Mbop. Does anybody remember Mbop? Mbop, da da doo wop. Yeah, it was a thing.
Oh my! I'm so glad we recorded that, because I'm gonna ask you for recording just to hear that again.
I'll call you, and that's my ringtone now.
Awesome. I see some. Shout out to the person who put Wu-Tang in the chat. Like I love Wu-Tang Clan. Let's see what else we got. We got a whole bunch. Britney Spears, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. This is awesome, y'all. Let's see. LL Cool J. Okay, cool, cool. All right. You guys got some good taste in music, so I'm gonna have to like save the chat and like add like some of these songs to like my playlist, like when I want to listen to some old school hits. P. Diddy, that's great. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and get to the intros. Hey, first of all, thanks y'all for participating in our icebreaker. That I'll be honest with y'all, before any presentation, I get nervous a lot, and that icebreaker is like just helps me kind of like ease the tension. So thanks a whole ton for you guys just like participating in that. So to start this out, my name is Dyzz Cooper. I'm the youth leadership coordinator for KPFC and System Care 5. And what that means basically is I got hired for my live experience. I was in the child welfare system in Columbus, Ohio from around the age of like 13, 14, all the way to 18 when I emancipated out the program. And after I emancipated, I got like a partial grant start slash scholarship to attend school at EKU where I received my bachelor's in psych. So now what I do full time is like I use a lot of my lived experience and a little bit of what I learned in school just to advocate for youth all over the state of Kentucky. And I know you guys are seeing the pictures on the screen. I like to break them down just so you can know me a little bit. So first picture is me. I'm in a Denver Nuggets jersey. I'm not a Nuggets fan, but I'm a big sports fans. Like you guys can see my background. I got some paintings that somebody painted for me of the Eagles and UNC. Like those are my two favorite teams. But the jersey I'm wearing is one of my favorite players, Carmelo Anthony. The second picture, which is one like I really need to change because that's my roommate's dog, and I kind of have a dog of my own. He's also a red-nosed pit. His name is Brody. On the third picture I have is my auntie and my granddad. Like those are the two like biggest supporters like in my life since I was in the child welfare system through college and now that like I'm working in this field. And the last picture is my two best friends that I met when I came down here for school, and they've been supporting me since I like got to Kentucky. So that's me. I'm gonna go ahead and pass to Amanda so she can tell you about herself.
Thank you, Dyzz. I love hearing all that stuff. I know I've heard it before, but Dyzz, you were such an inspiration, I swear. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Metcalf, and I'm the Family Leadership Coordinator, aka Dyzz's partner, the cool one. A little bit about me. I am a wife and a mother to, I know it shows 3 children. I actually have 5 children now, 3 biological children, and then my niece and nephew, who we have had in our home for going on 3.5 years now. So like Dyzz, I need to update some of my pictures. When I tell people I have 5 kids, we kind of joke. I always say, don't pray for me, come babysit, because I am wore out tired. A little bit about my backstory. I started my journey a long time ago when my family was involved in the child welfare system. I was a person that was struggling with long-term recovery, and it just so happened that I became involved in the child welfare system with DCBS. And I was referred to a amazing place that was not too far away from my home, and I got peer support services for the first time. Absolutely fell in love with the support that I had got from that place. Loved it so much that I ended up volunteering full time for 4 years, like every day, helping other families kind of navigate through that system that I had just went through. So that was a little bit about that. And here I am today presenting with Dyzz and working at KPFC. So, oh, and some personal things. I'm an avid coffee drinker and absolutely love Pokemon Go still. I know it's not the cool thing, but got to catch them all. So that's a little bit about me. Okay, so a little bit about our purpose for presenting today. So the purpose of our presentation is to really get a better understanding of how youth and families feel when they're involved in the child welfare system, and then ways to really How can you support and encourage youth and families that are involved in the child welfare system? So Days and I, when we actually sat down and talked about our experiences, we went through a lot of the same things, but we kind of expressed those, well, way different than each other. And another thing we like to add on to here is a little disclaimer that these views are based on the lived experiences of myself as a parent going through child welfare, and Days as a youth going through child welfare. So just kind of keep that in mind. We always like to put that little disclaimer on there. So what is the child welfare system? So we know that a lot of people on here are pretty familiar with what the child welfare system is. There's a little blurb about it up there. But today we really wanted to focus on some of those community partners that work with our families. Who are the partners that are working with the families that you work with? And even you, if you are a family member, has someone going through child welfare, what can you do in your role to really support and encourage families and youth to get through the child welfare system as quickly and as easily as possible, and really offer them some support while they're going through?
So what happens when a youth enters the child welfare system? So when we created this presentation, me and Amanda, we was just like chopping it up, and we were just talking about like we have like a whole bunch of like similar experiences, and like just through both our journeys, like me as a youth and Amanda as a parent, like just like going through the child welfare system. And like we just realized like, yo, while we're going through the system, like we're going through all these emotions, confusion, anger, ambivalence, anxiety, sadness, like the list goes on and on and on and on. And like as we was making this, it was like we can really just like break our experiences kind of like down to like three stages. And like the three stages we pick is confusion, anger, and ambivalence. I need to work on saying that word, ambivalence. But as we go through the presentation today, we're gonna talk about these three stages, and we're gonna talk about what it's like. Well, I'm gonna talk about what it's like when a youth go through these stages and kind of like break it down on how you can better like support the youth, and share some of my personal experiences as I was going through, as I experienced these three stages.
Days, I think everybody has an issue saying ambivalence.
See, it's
I
not
don't know
just
why we
me.
kept it on the presentation. Okay, so let's look at what happens when a family enters the child welfare system. So just like Day said, as with some youth, families and parents may feel the same emotions but express them differently. Many families have no idea where to even start when they are newly involved in the child welfare system. And some families may have obstacles to overcome, such as finding transportation. That is a big barrier, a big obstacle to overcome. And then emotions and feelings can become so very overwhelming at times. And we are going to kind of work through some of those emotions and feelings, like Days had mentioned a second ago.
So off the bat, let's go ahead and start with stage one, confusion. So during the stage, the youth has like a whole bunch of unanswered questions, and most youth are like in shock and may not be able to like comprehend and like talk about like the reason they're feeling confused. So like just like kind of share some of my own personal experiences, like entering the stage of confusion in this stage. At least for me and like a lot of youth I talk to, is usually like at the beginning. So like when I first got put in the placement, um I just got taken out of home like I knew like my whole life. And then I got put into a group home. Like I couldn't understand the reason that I got put in the group home. I was just asking questions, and nobody was like really like trying to like answer my questions, or nobody was like really trying to like talk to me, and just kind of like just do the whole intake, get me in, this, that, and the other. And like to say the least, y'all, I was really perplexed. Like I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what a group home was. I had to use like a whole bunch of context clues. Like I see a whole bunch of boards here, so like this got to be like a home for like boards. But like trying to figure out like, am I an orphan now? Like, well, why am I here? Like, what's the purpose for me being here? And like I kept on asking staff, got no answers. I kept on asking my worker at the time. I could barely get a hold of them. It's like I was just like confused, and I absolutely not a clue what was going on with my situation. So how can we support youth during like the early stage of confusion? And like for most of y'all that like work with youth, like the early stage of confusion is gonna happen like in the beginning. So like the most important thing to do is try to give like accurate information. Like just shoot them with like straight facts, so like they can like they can understand what is going on. And this next tip I have for you guys is really for younger youth. Use story dolls, puppets, pictures to really try to explain it. Like if you're working with a younger youth, just like try to like simplify for them. Like if you got to use metaphors, if you got to like paint a picture for them, like just try to just like come like down so they can like understand, oh, this is what's going on. Because like A happens, we have to like go to B, and like this is the situation we're in. And be aware of the youth attention span. I put this in on here, but like I'll be honest with y'all, like even now I'm like 27 and my attention span isn't even all that great. Like if I see a squirrel, I just focus on it. But try to be aware of the huge attention span. Like if you're talking to them, just be like, hey, I know they're like losing track. They're not really paying attention right now. But like eventually, like this youth is gonna focus on what you're saying, and they're gonna like understand what you're talking about. And this is probably the most important one of like to help the youth. Try to be non-judgmental, like keep it like a judgment-free zone. I remember when I was younger, there was judgment being passed like from everywhere, like all around the boards, like everybody that was like in my circle, my family and friends, like, oh, maybe if he had better parents, like or family, he probably wouldn't be in the situation he's in, or like that kid, he's just like a quote unquote bad apple, like he's a bad kid. That's why he's in a predicament we're in. But like just be aware, y'all, like everybody's situation is like really different. Like I know we sometimes get a file and some prior information for what's going on, but like just try to be non-judgmental, try to get to know the person, talk to them, have a conversation before you even go ahead and pass that judgment. And you know what? Even strike that, even after you talk to them and you want to pass judgment, wait a little bit longer and then try to pass that judgment.
You crack me up, Days. You're like, you know what? Never mind. I changed my mind. All right. So let's look at stage one confusion with families. So a family may not know where to go to from here or what to do next when they're newly involved in the child welfare system. A family may be asked to complete services, find housing, get a job. And a family may have issues. They might not know how to go about finding services or how to sign up for housing. And then families might be in a position where they must make decisions very quickly. I always think back to taking in my niece and nephew when we were going through child welfare with them. It was a phone call very early in the morning. Decisions were being made just very quickly. We didn't have a lot of time to think about next steps. Everything was very confusing. And then families may feel like they're unable to ask questions or make decisions regarding their family. Families might be scared to ask questions. They might feel like they're not allowed to ask questions. And this can really damage the communication and affect the way a family progresses on their treatment plan or their prevention plan. Next slide, please, Days. Thank you. So how can you support the family at this stage? Being upfront and honest with the family, and remember to be empathetic and understanding. Families who are newly involved in child welfare, in the DCBS system will be very vulnerable about some of those next steps. When DCBS kind of come into my life, they walked in on my family in a crisis. I was in a crisis situation. I was so lucky to have been to a place to get services, referred to a place to get services where I was able to get peer support, someone who knew what I had been through, who was empathetic and understanding to my situation. That was so valuable for me in my recovery and getting myself together and getting out of the system, really. And then families will need to be aware of resources and services available in their communities. Again, families might not know of services and resources that are around them. If a parent or a family has to go to a parenting class, one of the best things I ever got, my worker said, go to parenting and here's the phone number. And I remember being like, that is so nice. It was so helpful for my family. I had that there and I didn't have to look for it. So just providing that for the family. And then being aware of a family situation. Y'all, we all have families. We all have normal everyday lives. We work, we put food on the table, and we have other responsibilities other than our jobs. Keeping in mind that families may have issues with transportation or keeping cell phone minutes. I know in my community, transportation and keeping cell phone minutes is two of the biggest things. And whether you go, you talk to people throughout the state or the country, you hear transportation, getting to and from services or getting what we need. That is a big barrier. So addressing that barrier in the very beginning and getting that barrier out of the way, knowing ahead, transportation is an issue. So we're not going to tell this family member that they got 15 appointments this week in 10 different locations. So always keeping that in mind. And then Dyzz, I think he said it very well, being non-judgmental. Used to have a colleague who has passed, but he used to say, withhold judgment for understanding of a family's situation, understanding what that family is going through. And I think we'll talk about non-judgmental throughout the presentation, because that was something that was really important, I think, to me and Dyzz. Being non-judgmental and really listening to the families and youth that we serve. Okay, so to the good part. Dyzz and I love interaction when we do this presentation. So throughout the presentation, we have a couple questions that we would love if you would take a moment and type in the chat box. So question 1, have you ever been in a situation where you were confused and you didn't know what to do? How did you really react to that situation? If you would just take a moment, maybe a minute or so, and type it in the chat box. Dyzz and I love to read these out loud, and we would love to read a few of these if you all wouldn't mind. And it looks like we're getting some already, Dyzz.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll let some more people put some their answers in the chat. But as you guys are filling that out, I'll probably just share a time when I was confused. I know my go-to thing when I'm confused, or at least when I was younger, I would just fake it until I make it. That was one of my biggest fear, just to let people know that I was confused, just because I didn't want people to know I didn't know what was going on, or just to have that type of control. I feel like we sometimes see confusions as us losing control of the situation. And it's okay, cool. We don't want to lose that. So that was one of my go-tos when I was younger. But
I like that, Dyzz.
thank you. Let's see. What is
So we got a lot of emotions in the chat too. The ones that I see from the very beginning, I see a lot of shutting down. I froze, panicked, felt inferior, seen some called my dad, got really scared and did not know what to do, avoidance.
Yeah, I see one where a person just shared they're in a current situation right now and they stay angry, and I have a lot of anxiety struggling with dang, these questions coming fast. I already lost that one.
Oh, I should be helping you. Sorry about that.
Struggling keeping everything going. I feel you on that. Felt nervous, scared, anxiety, just feel like I'm not prepared, so I just shut down. Okay, these are some great responses, y'all.
There's a
Great.
lot of similarities that I've seen through here, like a lot of the panic, anxiety, froze,
Mhm.
shut down.
Yeah.
These are exactly what this is what our families and youth are going through when they're
Mhm.
confused, when they're newly involved, they don't know what to do, they don't know what steps to take. They're confused about the process and what lies ahead of them. So
Mhm.
they are going through a lot of these emotions.
Exactly, exactly. And like a lot of times, y'all, like our families and our youth that like we work with and try to support, sometimes they'll probably be like me when I was younger. Like they probably won't like verbalize. They're like, hey, I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. So like sometimes you just gotta like just like peep it. Like what you guys just said, like when you guys notice you're confused, like if you just see them nervous, you see their anxiety, or somebody just put down, like you see they're afraid, like go ahead and go up there and be like, hey, just ask them, be like, hey, are you confused? And like if they say yes, like just go ahead and try to like help them get over that confusion. And even if they say no, they're not confused, still provide that like support just in case like they're like me and don't want to like verbalize it.
Sometimes just knowing that someone is there, I
Hmm.
think a lot of like letting that person know I'm here if you need me, truly. I think that helps a lot too.
Hmm.
Wow, these are some really good responses.
For real.
We really appreciate that too.
Do you see any more that you want to talk about, Amanda, before we move on, or what do you think?
Just again, a lot of the same thing, anxious,
Okay.
scared, avoidance, being nervous, that a lot of those afraid. So yeah, thank you all
Okay.
for sharing these
Yeah,
great.
awesome, man. I really appreciate you guys sharing this. Let's see. All right, cool. So we're gonna talk about stage two, anger for the youth. And like stage two usually happens like after like the confusion stage. So like when a youth recovers from the shock of his or her situation, the youth is likely to feel angry, and this anger may be directed towards themselves, foster families, your workers, child welfare system, like anywhere like the youth can like point in their direction, anybody can get like the anger that they're feeling. And like most youth, they can't like really acknowledge anger towards themselves or towards the situation that led them to being put in the child welfare system. And at times, the youth may make angry statements about his or her parenting and guardian. Like I know when I was younger, like made like a lot of angry statements about like everybody that was like in my life, like my parents, my family, my worker, like just like people in general that are like just like trying to help me. And like while it's important not to agree with them, it's critical that we acknowledge like how the youth is feeling. So before I move on and like give you guys some tips on how you can support or help the youth when they go through this stage of anger. I want to tell you guys a quick story about like how like what helped me when I was going through like the anger stage. Cause like I feel like most of my child welfare experience, especially like at a younger age, I was just me constantly trying to get past this like anger stage. Like I got past the confusion, but like the anger stage was just like one that just like it just like really just like stuck with me for some reason. So when I was younger, I was in a group home and I constantly used to get in like like fights with like other youth in a group home, used to get in arguments with staff, arguments with my worker. And like I was just mad. Like I was just mad. I couldn't tell you guys the reason I was mad, but I was just mad. Like I was punching holes through walls, like cussing people out and like all of that. And like I remember one night I did that, and then like the next day when the staff they had to take me to school. So like he just we just got in the van, he took me to school, just me and him left and he just hollered at me like he said he just wanted to chop it up, talk to me. And he was like, hey, I heard you got in a fight again last night. like you punch a hole through the wall, like you're doing all these things, like real talk, like what's going on, like why are you so frustrated, why are you so angry, like what's going on? And like I just look him in the eye because like he asked me like a real question, like I'm doing all this because like I'm mad, I'm upset about something. He asked me all of this. I just looked at him. I said, "Yo, I'll be honest with you. I don't know why I'm angry. I don't know why I'm upset. All I know is that I'm angry. So like I want everybody else to be mad. Like I want everybody else to feel the same frustration and anger that I'm feeling." And like his response, it just really surprised me because he just looked at me. He said, "Okay, I got you." And then he said, I'm gonna pick you up after school, and then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take you someplace." And like I ain't think nothing of it. I went about like my school day as I usually was. Like I even forgot about it by the time he picked me up. So like he picked me up and like he took me to my high school football field, and apparently he had like a really good relationship with my high school's like head coach. And like he just went up to the coach and he's like, "Hey, my kid is like he's upset, he's angry, and what can you do to help him?" And like that was like one of the most defining and changing moments in my life because like after that I started like playing football nose guard for my high school team. But like that like just really helped me a ton. And like I shared this story because like playing football, just like just spending that energy on the field and just like being physical, like it really helped me like take my anger out. And like I'll be honest with y'all, I was calmer. My mood changed. I don't know, like I just felt like a completely different person. And like that staff, like he just took me on that field that one day and that like just made me do like a whole like 360, like it just turned everything around. So I share that story just to like kind of like transition. Oh, let's go. I share that story just to kind of like transition into like some tips that we have. Like try to teach your youth acceptable ways to express anger. Being able like to play football, just like exerting that energy on the field really helped me kind of like just take out that anger like on the field, like the frustration I have about the situation I was in. I was able to just like play ball and like that like help a ton. Like it was just a positive way for me to express my anger instead of like just like yelling at staff, cussing them out, or getting like fresh like other kids in the group home. Like I was able to do that and try to evaluate your acceptance of angry feelings. I don't know what it is about kind of like our society, but we kind of like dismiss like angry feelings. Like we just off the rip, we just call them like negative. Like you're not supposed to be angry. Like that's not a feeling like to really have. Like you can be frustrated. Like I just hate it when people downplay like my emotions. Even if it's like something like anger or frustration, like try to like really talk to the youth, like accept those angry feelings. Like I understand that yo, you're upset, that you're mad about something. What can we do to move on, or what can we do to really like fix this so it doesn't happen again? And the last tip I have for you guys, identify the youth support system like your caseworker, family, friends, and additional service. After that staff took me on the field that day, me and him, like our relationship, it just skyrocketed. And like even till this day, he's like a mentor in my life. And like just through that one connection, I was able like to identify like all kinds of like support system that's like in my life. Like I realized, hey, my caseworker always told like, nah, they're not really trying to help me, but like they really want me to succeed. Like the staff in the home, they really want to be supported and help me get through all this. And like just it just took that one instance, like it just took that one support person to really see that, hey, there's an issue going on. Let me go ahead and try to fix that issue. And then kind of like the floodgates just like kind of opened up, and I was able to identify more like support networks. So, like if you know a youth that's like just like going through any type of like going through the stage of like anger, like just try to be that one supportive person for them, just so like they able to identify and see what a supportive person look like and identify more people that can help them out.
Days, I got to meet that mentor someday. You promised. So let's look at stage 2 anger with families. So after a family overcomes that initial shock of becoming involved in the child welfare system, a family may start to become angry and resentful of their situation. Families are going through a lot. Parents are feeling a lot of anger and emotions, sometimes even guilt. When my family was involved, I felt so guilty. There was a lot of guilt I had in myself. I was embarrassed. I didn't want anyone to know. I was angry at myself. And then, just as with some youth, families may come off angry at their DCBS worker, service provider, or even family and friends. Taking in my niece and nephew caused a lot of tension between my family, and it caused a lot of anger being on this side of it. So that was something that we really had to work through as a family. And then it's always important, and I think Days said it very well, to acknowledge how that family feels. When a worker comes into the home, that worker is meeting that family in a crisis situation. So let's look at how we can support the family in this stage, allowing the families to express how they feel, good or bad. Acknowledge that anger so that family, that parent can move past it. I was so angry at myself, and I was so blessed to be able to walk into an office, meet with a peer specialist, and she said, it's okay to feel that way. Anger is not a bad thing. It is your reaction to it that's going to determine good or bad. Are you going to hold on to that anger, Amanda, and stay in this place and not move forward? Or are you going to take that anger and use it as a motivator to get your kids back, to get your family back together into your home? How do you want to do that? And just her saying that it was okay to be angry was such a relief. It just felt so good. Felt so good to hear that. And then put yourself in their shoes. Like we said earlier, withhold that judgment for understanding. Think about, if this happened today to my family, if DCBS, child welfare, come in and said, my kids had to go stay somewhere else and I had to do all these things. Think for just a minute, how would that affect your family? What would you do? Who would be your concrete supports in time of need? Where would you go? So trying to put yourself in their shoes, and then work with the family to identify strengths and supports. And when we're going through a crisis situation, it sometimes is hard to identify those strengths. It's hard to identify some of those supports. And just like Day said earlier, talking about his mentor, you yourself might find yourself being a family or youth's biggest supporter. You may be the one at the table initiating that strength-based conversation and showing different outlooks on families. And one thing that always comes to mind is, sometimes we don't look at, sometimes we look at things differently. An example that comes to mind is when families get food stamps or they use local resources. And sometimes you might hear it said, well, this parent can't provide, or this parent uses too many resources. But just for just a second, being able to try to spin that into a positive and saying, this family knows how to get what they need for their family. They know how to get the resources they need to help their family. That family can provide for their children. So just kind of turning that around. And sometimes, like I said, it's a little bit hard to do, especially if it's a crisis situation. But sometimes we take it upon ourselves. Days had his mentor. I had a wonderful peer support specialist and a lady that helped me through to get to where I am today. You may find yourself being a family or youth's biggest supporter.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. We got another question for y'all. So, when was the last time you experienced anger? Was your reaction healthy or unhealthy, and why?
I'll go
Yeah.
first. Unhealthy. No, I'm just kidding.
It's funny. So yeah, y'all feel free, take a couple minutes, just put your response in the chat and we are gonna read a few back. And while you guys are doing that, let me think about a time I experienced was angry. Oh dang.
Days, you're so chill now. You don't get angry very often.
Yeah, man, Amanda, I tell you, like that's like the last emotion I ever want to feel, but like it just so happens to like just like to pop up, like if I'm like watching a ball game, or like if I'm like just like hanging out with a friend, like I just so happen like just to get angry. But I do remember a time I was angry, and like this is gonna be this is gonna be so ridiculous when you guys hear it. So like I want to say it was probably last week, me and a buddy, we were just arguing about something stupid like who's like the best like player in a sport or something. And like he said something that like it was so outrageous, at least it was so outrageous to me that it made me upset that like that one sports argument started like getting super personal and we just started like just going like back and forth at each other and like I realized I'm like super angry so like I just left. I left his house and like I didn't talk to him for like maybe for like a couple of days and then like when I finally told about it I'm like yo this is stupid. I texted him I was like hey I apologize that didn't have to get that out of hand. But like yeah that's my last experience feeling anger. So we got some response in the chat. So let's see what you guys got for us. Let's see. You see anything? Amanda.
Yes.
Mhm.
So a couple things. I might have scrolled up too far, but we'll just roll with it. I got a call late one night from a family member asking me to let my niece stay with me, and it turned into an open case that led to an adoption 3 years later. It was unexpected and terrifying, but we worked through it. And I think I scrolled too much, but that was a lovely story, and it reminds me of my own. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Looks
Uh,
There's one on here about bad traffic to a 9 a.m. meeting. Took some deep breaths when I got there and joked with coworkers. So I think it was healthy. Good job.
okay.
Thank you for that, Emily.
That's awesome. That's all. Yeah. Speaking of bad traffic, I was in something yesterday, and that made me angry. Also, uh, we got one from. Let's see. I just passed it. Tina. So a few weeks ago, I had to take a walk away from my computer because I wanted to hurt people. Unhealthy thoughts, but a healthy reaction. But I am a therapist and was able to identify my issue. Hey, at least you was able to see what was going on and identify it and be able to walk away. And, like that's sometimes what you got to do. Like when that anger like just creeps up on you, you just gotta be like, you know what? Like I'm better than this. Let me just take some time. Let me unwind, and then we can run it back. So like that's awesome.
I
Let's see.
love the honesty in some of these too. That is well appreciated. We are all human.
Mhm. Let's see. We got Christy. She was like a couple weeks ago unhealthy because I kept these are coming fast. Where is it? A couple weeks ago unhealthy because I kept my feelings in when I should have just talked about it with the person. I realized that too about myself, Christy. Like the more like I keep it in, like it just takes one thing. Like it could be like something so simple like that happened a lot with my roommate. Like the more I kept it in, it could be one thing like he like ate some food I had in the fridge or like he made a mess. And like that small mess that I could have taken care of, like it just exploded. And like I just started unleashing everything that I've been upset about. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
I see another one on here, Days.
Mhm.
I experienced anger last week. I had a conversation with my supervisor about my concerns. I believe I handled it in a healthy way. Thank you for sharing that, Amanda.
That's great. That's great. I think it's awesome that like all of you guys got like your own like coping skills already, like how to like deal with like your angers, or like you guys are able to like identify like your anger, like when it like comes up. So that's super cool. And like, thanks again, y'all, for participating in these questions. We kind of asked you guys these just to like put yourself kind of like in like the youth or like the family shoes as they go through these stages, because even though you can experience their experience, the emotions are still the same, and like you have similar emotions, like when you felt like some type of anger, confusion, or frustration, or whatever the case may be. So thanks for sharing that. Do you see anyone you want to share, Manner?
Oh, I
Before
done closed the chat, Days. I
oh.
jumped ahead. My bad.
No, you're good, you're good. Let's see. But yeah, y'all, thanks for sharing this, and we're gonna go ahead and talk about stage 3, feelings of ambivalence. I think I got it right that time. So hold up. So the mixed feelings a youth is experiencing can range from rejection to attachment, love to hate, and trust and mistrust. And most youth have mixed feelings about everyone involved in their lives during this time. So like that absolutely happened to me too. I remember, I feel like my whole journey of like being in the child welfare system was just like just a compilation of like a feelings of ambivalence, just because as a youth you're still trying to like figure out everything, like your brain's still developing, and like you're still trying to figure out, is this person a friend or a foe? Is this person in my life for a long time, or is this person just going to be short term? I know a lot of youth that like I grew up with that had to jump from placement to placement to placement. Like they always struggle with feelings of a bit ambivalence, just because they they never realized like how long they're gonna be in this placement, or if they felt like they got put in the wrong placement. So that the only thing they had to do was like just leave or AWOL. Like it breeds a kind of like mistrust, where it's like you're always questioning somebody's motives. Like you don't know if you can trust the person, or like if this person is trying to like just do you bad. It's like the youth are constantly having that feelings of ambivalence, and it's like within themselves too, because it's like they have all these conflicting emotions about like everybody that's surrounding them. So how can we support the youth about this? Teach that ambivalence is natural. Like this is probably one of the biggest tips I have for you guys on is just teach that it's natural. Even the older I got, the more like new people come in my life, and some old people, when they do certain stuff, like I'm always gonna have like mixed feelings around like certain actions or like certain things people are doing, just because like it's like that's just me. But like just teach that it's natural, and like you're always gonna have mixed and conflicting feelings about somebody. The key is to kind of like identify your reason for having those mixed feelings and kind of like deal with it in the appropriate manner. And we talked about this earlier when we talk about anger, but encourage positive emotions while acknowledging negative emotions. I just feel like a lot of times that us as a society, we like to downplay all the negative emotions. Like you can be frustrated, like you're not supposed to be sad, mad, or like stuff like that. But the minute we have like quote unquote positive emotions, like yo, go ahead and be excited, happy, like be ecstatic, like feel those emotions, like we uplift them. But I feel like we need to keep that same energy with the negative emotions. Like don't downplay them and be like, no, 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 you can't feel that. Like that's a bad emotion to have. Like try to identify, why are you feeling this negative emotion? Like why are you feeling this like emotion that's sadness, or this emotions that's anger? Like try to identify why you're feeling this emotion, and try to come up with some coping skills. And if you can't come up with one yourself, try to like talk to somebody for why you're feeling all these like emotions, so you can better be equipped for when you deal with them again.
Thank you, Days. So let's take a look at stage 3 feelings of ambivalence with families. And I will be completely honest, this is a stage I found myself in quite a bit and sometimes still do to this day. A family can feel alone and may become defensive with involvement in the child welfare system. We kind of talked a little bit about that earlier. And this can lead to them having mixed feelings about the child welfare system in general. They may feel like once you are involved in the child welfare system, you can never get out. And some days they may be better than others. I kind of go through this to this day with my niece and nephew who are involved in the child welfare system. Some days are better than others. Some days I feel like it's moving ahead, and other days I feel like we're falling behind. So keeping that in mind. And then families may feel like they can't trust anyone involved with their family due to fear. And it is really the fear of things getting worse, the fear of the unknown. And families may feel like they can't be honest or open about their families due to fear. Something I thought was really interesting is Days and I had this opportunity to present this presentation to some child welfare workers, a lot of frontline staff. And when we asked them what were some barriers to working with families, one of the biggest barriers we heard was that families and youth being afraid, to be honest with them, and having fear, that fear of the unknown. And it was something that I had felt going through. In the beginning, I was so afraid, to be honest. I was so lucky to have support from the office. I was so lucky to have a peer support specialist. And I was really blessed to have a good worker who was working with me and my family. And I felt comfortable being honest and kind of moving through that fear. So that is a big barrier to a lot of families and youth feeling that they can open up is that fear. So how can we support the family in this stage? Helping a family see their accomplishments. And I quoted see there because sometimes when we're in the mix of it and we're going through all this, we don't see the little things that we do all the time. When parents used to come into my office and I knew that transportation was a barrier for them. Remember earlier I said transportation is a big barrier. We all see that quite a bit. When I knew it was a barrier and they would make it in for an appointment, I would make such a big deal about it. I would be like, wow, that is awesome. You guys made it to your appointment today. I know transportation is a big barrier for you. That shows the dedication and the initiative to working on this plan. That is awesome. And I would do that because I enjoyed hearing that when I was going through it. You know, I had someone there seeing all those little accomplishments I made. Great job, Amanda, making that 12-step meeting. You didn't have to, but you did. And I remember being like, oh, look at me, what I did, you know, feeling so good about myself. So seeing those little accomplishments, encourage positive emotions while acknowledging the negative ones. Days and I have like just talked about this throughout the day. It just how important it was for someone to say, it is okay that you feel that way. That is normal. And let's help you move through this. And that was just such a big deal for us. Being supportive through it all. Days had his mentor. I had peer support. We had supportive people in our lives. And you may find yourself being that person's biggest supporter. You may be the person at the table that is going to start those strength-based conversations and talking about how all these accomplishments this family and youth is making. You may find yourself being that for some family and youth. And I think that's just an awesome thing. What a neat thing to have on your shoulders to be the supporter. And then explaining the process. When families and youth know the process and the next step of what is going to happen, oh, it takes so much stress and relief off that family of knowing that. When they know the process of this is what's going to happen next. And within so much time, this is going to happen and this will happen. It takes that worry of the unknown away. And it really kind of helps the family focus on what they need to do because they're not sitting wondering about what is to come. And then hold the hope. And I'm sure you all recognize the title of our presentation, Holding Hope for Families and Youth Involved in Child Welfare. we got such a great response from Hold the Hope, from everybody that has, seen the presentation or has heard about it. Holding the Hope was such a big thing for me in Days. Something that I would tell families when they would come in, when they would say they felt hopeless and they felt lost and they felt like there was no hope they were ever going to get out of this. I would tell them what my peer specialist told me. I would say, if you can't hold the hope for your family right now, then I'm going to hold it for you. I'm going to hold it for you until you're able to hold it for yourself. But just know, when you leave here today, there's someone holding hope for your family. You are not alone. And one day when you're ready, I'm going to give that hope back to you and you can hold the hope for your family. That made such a big deal to know that when there's somebody that cares about my family, not just me. They want to see good things for my family. So that was something, Hold the Hope meant a lot to a lot of people, to just think that someone was there holding the hope, even when you're not there or you're not ready to, and then being able to give it back. So Hold the Hope. So this is our last question in our presentation. And I just got to say, we've gotten great responses, like really good responses, and we really do appreciate that. So for a moment in the chat box, if you wouldn't mind, think about a time you had mixed feelings about a situation or a person. How did you deal with that? And thinking, maybe, well, no, I don't know about that. What was the outcome of that? And how did you deal with it? If you would just take a moment and type those in the chat box, we would appreciate it. Thank you all. Days, do you see the chat box? It's not popping up on my screen.
Yeah. I see a couple.
I'm working on
it. Somebody said I'm faking it,
Yes.
as they said. I love that.
Fake it till you make it.
You feel me? And somebody said I have not. I just avoid them when possible. I mean, I guess yeah. You have to like approach people when you're really ready. And let's see. Somebody said if I have mixed feelings for someone, I won't interact with them. I keep them at a distance and have little to no interaction with them, which is fair. I
I
try to.
see Days.
Oh, you said what?
I got the chat box up. Do you want me to read you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it says, I just remind myself that I can't control. I talk to supports to help work through my thoughts. That's a big one. Having someone there to kind of just talk ideas, talk things out with sometimes helps a lot. And sometimes you don't need that feedback. You just need to talk it out. I have to meet the person where they are instead of where I think they should be. I have to have patience. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Sometimes that's easier said than done, especially if it's someone that we really care about, maybe family, and we want them to be here. We think we know, like, oh, if they would just, and sometimes we have to just kind of be, yeah.
No, I really love all of these responses. Like, and like I really love the fact that some of you guys have said, like, hey, if I have mixed feelings, I'm not sure about a person, like I gotta keep them at arm's length and like just keep them at a distance, which is fair. Like if you don't know what that person's intention is, no need to keep them in your life. So like that's awesome. Like thanks for sharing all that, y'all. Somebody said I just remind myself that I can't control them, which is fair too. Like I'm really loving all these responses, y'all. Okay, cool. So we're
Days, there was one in here. It said, love people, but I don't have to like someone.
Man, ain't that the truth? Man, I can go on. Let me stop. I can go on a tangent about
Our next presentation will be on.
Hey, thanks for sharing all of y'all. This is the last question, and all of these responses in the chat, it's been really awesome, and they really made my day, and I appreciate y'all. And okay, cool. So we're about to take a minute and talk about transition out the system. This is just something that's like really personal, deep to me, and that I care about being a former foster care youth that was in the system, that was able to transition out of the system into like adulthood and just like kind of like live my life like kind of like child welfare free from most of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw some stats at you guys, and this is just something that I look up and I found, and like it was really kind of upsetting with me. So I'll throw these stats at you and just give you guys some tips on how we can really affect it. On the next slide. So 20% of youth who are in foster care will instantly become homeless upon aging out. And there's a lot of different factors that goes into why the status exists. Even with independent living resources out there, this that could point to a lack of engagement with the resources and older youth who have simply survived in the system, but they didn't really thrive, age out with nowhere to call home. And most of the time, they're lacking the personal skills and knowledge they need to access the resource to help them. The next one I got for you guys is there's a less than 3% chance of a child who ages out of foster care achieving higher education. And it's not really that they're incapable of further education or they're lacking intelligence or they don't really have the desire of a college degree. Many lack the skills needed to enroll in a college or apply for tuition grants or education loans. And like one thing to really think about, college isn't the only option for youth after foster care. First, we should really ask them what their personal life goals are. And after that, just helping them develop their skills and teach them how to prepare for life after their self-identified goals will be imperative for their growth. And this is the last one I have for you guys. Only one out of every two older youth will have employment by the age of 24. So with the lack of support around developing appropriate emotional and social skills, the risk of unemployment is very high. And because of this, older youth who are on the streets are at a high risk of abusing substances, becoming victims of crimes, or engage in criminal behaviors. So I just want to apologize beforehand. Like my bad for reading these stats for you guys. I know they're not the most positive stats, but like these are the stuff that like happen. Like once the child welfare system isn't in place for like a lot of youth that either age out, transition out, or kind of like AWOL out the program. Like these are just some stats that exist. So here's how we can like help them out, help make these stats a little bit better. So help build supportive relationships and connections. So I talk about like the guy that like dropped me on the football field that one day, and like I told you guys that that guy is my mentor even till this day. Like I can like really hit him up and call him for anything. And like I bring this up just because it's important like for our youth when they're transitioning out to have build a supportive relationship and like just have those connections. Cause even now, I'll be honest with y'all, I'm 27 and I'm still calling this man up for like advice on anything, like advice on banking, advice on like relationships, like even like advice. Like I remember I called him up one time because I want to make a big purchase. Like I didn't know what size TV to get. I was like, hey, do you think a 65 inch is that too big? Is that too small? Like I'll just hit him up just for that. But like it's even the little stuff. Like I can hit him up for something so small and then like something so large as like I don't know how my relationship with this person is going, or I don't know like if I should like opt into a 401k type of thing. So like if you're working with a youth, please emphasize the importance of like building a supportive relationship and making those connections. Teach money management. I put this on here mainly because, well, one, I struggle with money management a lot. And two, I know a lot of youth that is like super important. So like teach the importance of like having a bank account to the youth that you work with or youth that you have. Like teach the importance of a 401k and like saving your money and like know when to like spend money on stuff you want and like spending money on like things that you really need. And this is a personal advice. Do not teach your youth anything about Bitcoin. Please don't. I learned the hard way, so don't teach them anything about Bitcoin. Third, assist with finding and maintaining employment. Um, I know like this one is really hard for youth because like sometimes they lack like the interview skills for like when they go interview for a job, or like let's just say they got the job and they struggle with like the social skills, not know how to react when like they have to confront somebody at work, like maybe somebody makes them upset, or like maybe they're having like they think their boss is being hard on them, like and just like maintain that job. I know a lot of youth that were formerly in child welfare system, they struggle with that, like just like getting a job and maintaining it, but teach the youth good like work etiquette and teach them good like social skills. So like once they get this job, they're able to keep it and maintain it. So like they can have like some income for them to be able to survive. And the last thing is help with securing housing. This is super big with youth, especially youth and characters. Like a lot of times, like we sometimes don't have our own housing. We're either crashing on a friend's couch or like we're just like room hopping or house hopping from house to house. But like teach the importance of securing a house, like getting a house that you can afford, like finding a good neighborhood where you'll be able to live in and like really feel safe. And like just like knowing what rent is and if you're able to afford that or what your electric bill is and like everything that's gonna have to come with like maintaining and keeping this house. So yeah, these are just the quick tips I have for you guys. Like I said earlier, youth that transition out of care, like it's a huge passion for me just because I struggled for a little bit when I transitioned out of care until like I was able to like follow like most of these tips and like just find like a real support network, people that would help me and just like people that would be in my life and just like took it upon myself just to learn all of these skills that I have now. So like if you're working with a youth, please make sure you teach them these skills or at least try to assist them.
Thank you, Days. So, continuing with some of the tips and a little bit of a recap, we kind of wanted to end on the theme of the holding hope for families and youth. So, holding hope for families and youth who can't see hope for themselves, helping a family see hope for their future kind of gives them hope to succeed and move past things and get through things. Being that person who holds hope for them, offering information and trainings and resources and services that could support a family in reunification. If I would have never been offered those opportunities in the very beginning to kind of advance and to attend trainings and to build my leadership skills, I would never be where I am today. And I could not be more grateful for that opportunity. And then advocate for families. And remember, you may find yourself a family's biggest supporter. Again, Dave's talked about his mentor, and I talked about my peer who helped us. And, Dave's mentor still helps him out to this day, and so does my peer specialist. So these are long-lasting supportive relationships. And then keeping family and youth-driven the focus. This is something that Days and I are passionate about regardless, that all services and supports are centered around families and youth, and that families and youth are choosing their own services and supports. So, Days, you want to take us to the next slide? So we would like to end on some resources and opportunities for families and youth through Kentucky Partnership for Families and Children. We listed some of them out here. Some of you guys might be familiar with some of these. Something that we're passionate about cafes, youth and community and parent cafes that we facilitate based around the strengthening families 6 protective factors. The youth cafe is facilitated by youth. Dyzz, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that. Catching you off guard, my bad, partner.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, actually, I help host the youth cafes. We do the first Thursday of every month. So, like, if you guys know any youth who might be interested in it, please have them hop in. It's a cool place for youth to just kind of like just hop on and just like chop it up. We talk about the 6 protective factors, and like youth get a chance to build relationships with like-minded peers like themselves. So like, yeah, feel free. We're gonna put a link to like all of this, everything you just said at the end of this presentation.
Oh.
So feel free to check KPFC website.
Thank you, Dyzz. Another thing I wanted to point out here is the nurturing parenting. I know that all the peer support centers throughout the regions are providing nurturing parenting, but we are actually doing a statewide nurturing parenting for families and parents, adoptive parents, foster parents that might be looking for just some additional information around the nurturing parenting model and parenting in general. So our first one, again, this will be our round 2 of our series. It will be 12 weeks and it starts March the 20th. And all this information can be found on the KPFC website. You can register for nurturing parenting and smart recovery, and the cafes on there as well. And then down here where it says training opportunities, the KFLA, the Kentucky Family Leadership Academy. I always got to give a shout out to the Academy because it was the very first training I ever went to once my case was closed. And it had only been closed a very short time. And it was the first thing, my first taste of advocacy for other families. And it really kind of started me on my journey to where I am today. So that one lies close to my heart. It really teaches those leadership skills, advocacy skills to families and youth that are interested in advocating for other families and youth in their community. So if you know of any parents and youth that might be interested in building up some of those leadership skills, taking it to the next level, or talking about wanting to advocate for other family and youth, then the KFLA is a great opportunity to build some of those skills and get started on that journey of advocacy. And please share this information with your families and youth. And then, go ahead, Dyzz.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say these are emails. You guys feel free. you guys feel free if you want any questions or advice, to email us about anything you need.
I have a question in the Q&A for you guys. If someone is interested in becoming a peer support, should they attend the Kentucky Family Leadership Academy?
Yes. Next question. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, that is, if they are wanting to be a family or youth peer support specialist in the future, the KFLA is a prerequisite for that training. So they would do the Leadership Academy and then later on do what we call the CCT, core competency training. But regardless, we have had DCBS workers and case managers and service providers attend the KFLA, and they just really enjoy it. It's a great kind of on the ground, just nitty gritty of advocacy and really supporting families and youth. So it is a great training, especially for families and youth in the beginning.
And where can people find more information about the KFLA?
The KFLA, I should know. I'm a co-trainer in that. I should know that already. But all this can be found on the KPFC website. There is, if you go to the website, at the very top, it says events and calendar. And if you click on calendar, it will take you to the months. And it will show you on there where you can register for the cafes, nurturing parenting, the KFLA when it comes back around, the core competency training once that gets done. So all that stuff is on there. Thank you so much for putting that in the chat.
You're welcome. That would save people from having to email you later to say, what's that website again?
Or they can email regardless. It's fine.
So while this screen is up, you might want to jot down Dyzz and Amanda's email addresses so that you have those as you think of any questions. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to enter those in the Q&A. We just lost Dyzz, but Amanda is still here with us. Not really sure what happened. So tell me how you would start that conversation. If you were a provider, how would you start the conversation with a parent or family member to get them engaged, to get them to the place where they understand that they can be a peer support specialist?
You know, a lot of the times, and I'll tell you how it was for me. So after I had went through the parenting classes and I had done all the assessments and I was getting close to my case being closed, I found myself saying things like, well, would you guys, I know I don't have my chart's going to be closed, but would you care if I come out and like took out your trash? Would you care if I just come and, hung out in group? I really like it. That's kind of how it started. I kind of showed an interest, I suppose, and they automatically offered it to me. I know a lot of times through the years I've heard, I know someone, but I don't think they're ready. I don't think that family's ready. I don't think that I have a youth that's ready. A lot of people probably looked at me back in the day and said, oh, she's just not ready. She's brand new out of her case being closed. She's not ready. I was just so blessed to have that opportunity where they said, well, ready or not, here she comes, and sent me through the Leadership Academy. And that was really the turning point. When I finished the academy after 3 days, it was on a Sunday when it was over. I walked up to Barbara Green. I'm sure many of you know her. And I said, Barb, I want to do this from now on. I want to help. I don't want other families to have to go through what I went through. I want to be there and help. And she said, well, can you start tomorrow? And I said, yay. And that's been almost 13 years now, and volunteered for 4 years and had the opportunity to be hired in as one of the first peer support specialists in our area that was doing family peer support. So, they gave me that opportunity. They asked me, they didn't think about if I was ready. Yeah. So
You hit on exactly what I wanted you to hit on with the whether or not the family's ready.
oh, well, I'm so glad.
Dyzz is back with us.
My bad, y'all. My computer died. I had to use mine backup.
That's okay. The question was for Amanda anyway, so she was able to answer it. Anybody else have
awesome.
any questions? Any final thoughts from you guys?
This was an awesome presentation, y'all. Like, I love the responses we had in the chat. Me and Amanda, we do this presentation a lot, and like the response you guys have was on top tier. So yeah, awesome. Thanks for participating, y'all.
And as always, Dyzz and I love the sound lists in the very beginning. Dyzz his eyes are just so wide to all the different music categories now, and still got to get you the Eagles, Dyzz. Great music.
Thank you guys both so much for being here. Like I said earlier, this is the last session of the System of Care Learning Series for 2022-2023. So it was great to end it with you guys. And just thank you for giving us your time and sharing your knowledge with us.